to the wall. Like the seashore clings to the sea. Like you'll never get rid of your shadow. Chris, you'll never get rid of me. Let all the others fight and fuss. Whatever happens, we've got us.
Welcome to Talk AEW, the official podcast about AEW from Goomba Stomp and Tilt Magazine. We're here today, as always, with editor-in-chief of both websites, Ricky D.
Ian, we're 30 seconds into the podcast, and I'm already let down. I thought you were going to open up with a big musical number.
I thought about it, and then I pulled a hammy.
Damn.
I just couldn't do it.
And my name is Ricky D, not Ricky Skaggs. Just saying.
You sure it's not Jungle Ricky D?
I like Jungle Boys. I would be okay with Jungle Boy. I also like Ricky Stark, not Ricky Skaggs. Anyhow.
We're also here with freelance writer Mariko McDonald.
Hello.
Was there any specific way you wanted me to screw up your name?
I mean, it's actually already sort of mispronounced anyways, so it's all good.
Oh, okay then. Then we're good to go.
Listen, hold on a second. We're a full week into recording, and I think it's about time that we bring in nicknames. Maybe next week. Each of us should have a nickname.
Oh, like a wrestling persona? Like our gimmick?
Are we thinking them up for ourselves or each other?
Yeah, you got to tune in next week to hear what our nicknames would be.
Oh, this will be good.
Yeah, I guess leave them in comments if this is part of the recording.
Yeah, for sure. Go to goomstomp.com. You can find the post for this very podcast and leave us a comment.
Oh, God, I'm already scared. Let's get started tonight. We got to talk about two things from this past week's Dynamite. First, I think we need to talk about Phoenix and Pentagon.
Right.
Yes.
Go on.
It was an amazing match. Period. Anybody who's seen them wrestle, like, it's not like it's the first time these two brothers have ever faced each other. So I mean, they always put on a great show. But damn, that was a match.
I don't think I've ever audibly gasped that many times during a wrestling match. There was, of course, the horrible bump that Phoenix took that apparently means he won't actually be wrestling Kenny Omega next week.
What?
Yeah, apparently he wrestled Pentagon instead because they were filming back to back. But everyone is also saying that he's fine. Don't worry about him. It wasn't that bad. Nothing to see here.
Okay, so
yeah,
I'm confused. They filmed it in reverse? Because okay, I get what you're saying. So
No.
you're saying Phoenix is injured, so Kenny has already fought Pentagon,
Wrestled,
pre-recorded. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. I think this match was amazing. It's a PPV worthy match, right? This match should have been on a pay-per-view.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, without question.
For sure. But I like the fact that, look, first of all, it's not the first time Dynamite has had a match that should have been on a pay-per-view, but I like the fact that Dynamite has these incredible matches because it gives me and people reason to tune in week after week because you can expect amazing matches. But the fact that he did get a bump and was injured was scary, and I think that added to the tension and the suspense of watching the match because you did not know what to expect because sometimes, they fake their injury, right? And you can sort of tell it's scripted, but here you can tell, no, this dude got hurt. Because you could tell because of the ref's expression. Aubrey was just she was really concerned.
Oh, yeah. Well, and even Penta was bent over talking to him for a long time. I was very, very nervous, especially after the whole Matt Hardy, Sammy thing at the last pay-per-view where for a good 10 to 20 minutes, I was insisting that it was a work. And my husband and I were arguing. He's on Reddit getting all of the updates of what everyone else thinks. And then finally, it all came out that he was really badly injured. And so this happens with Pentagon and Phoenix, which was obviously one of my most anticipated matches. Just, when those two are in a ring, it's going to be fire. And that happened. And I think I was kind of like overcompensating a little bit for like, believing that every injury is a work, and I'm just screaming at the television, call the match. It's fine.
Well, and you
we'll
make a
understand.
Good point. You make a good point about that, because later in the night they had that 4-way tag team match, and Alex Reynolds was knocked the hell out in the middle of the ring for a long time.
Yeah.
Like he just like the ref. Is a big part of the job of the ref is to do what you just said. Call the match when something like that happens. And he was out, and they were still doing moves on him, and he was just laying there.
By the way, he is injured.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Like, it just shocked me how long that he was there. Like, everybody watching was like, okay, this is not right. And finally they rolled him over, and the ref just kept moving around him and not doing anything about it. I was so confused.
Yeah, and he's a huge part of the quote-unquote success of the Dark Order, him and John Silver.
Absolutely.
So to have them out, like, I'm not the biggest fan of the Dark Order. I would like to see Brody Lee do something else, but I do like John Silver. That guy is comedy gold. I would love to see John Silver actually team up with, or have a feud with Colt Cabana, because those two are the best when it comes to physical comedy.
Yes.
So, and we did get a bit of it with the interview, right? Like, Reynolds and Silver were sort of making fun of Colt when he was being interviewed. Like, that to me is comedy gold. Like, at the end of the day, this is sports entertainment. So there's a sports aspect. Like, you look at the Pentagon Phoenix wrestling, like what they can do in the ring. And then we have the entertainment portion of the show, which comes with the spots. For example, the Colt Cabana interview, which I'm not the biggest fan of Colt. He's cool, right? But I don't get overly excited when I see him, but he is really good with physical comedy. And so, like, I think the thing about AEW, and we've talked about this last week, is that they find these great pairings accidentally between two wrestlers. For example, Brit Baker and Swole, but they don't really go far enough with the storylines, or they completely forget about the storylines. And so I'm not backstage. I'm not privy to knowledge of what's happening with injuries and contracts, and maybe COVID-19 is complicating travel. But there's way too many times in the past 52 weeks where they've had two wrestlers pair up, has a tag team or it's a feud. They share great chemistry, and they completely abandon the idea. And I'm, like, confused as to why.
No, that's a solid point. I've asked myself that. The one that's been getting me is Allie. I don't understand her booking at all.
Very
Eddie
confusing. Kingston actually addressed this in the pre-show when he was asked, what's up with that? And he said, what? So that was the explanation for Allie rejoining.
Wait, who said what?
Oh, good. Eddie.
Eddie Kingston said, yeah, what's your point? She's back.
Yeah, but it's not even that. Why did she leave in the first place? That was confusing, too.
Yeah, I didn't really understand what they were doing with the whole QT Marshall's midlife crisis thing, and then getting Allie into it. And
so weird.
Was it really all about putting her and Brandy in a tag team so they could have that tag tournament that was on YouTube and very few people seem to really have paid a lot of attention to?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And they dropped that team almost immediately after virtually immediately. And then she just...
Yeah, as soon as the tournament was done with, it was... Allie disappeared.
Totally,
disappeared. Yes. And now Brandy looks like she's going to form a partnership with Red Velvet, which I'm very excited for. I
love Red Velvet. Yeah.
A lot of fun. Having some Black Girl Magic working together. I think that'd be a great addition to the whole thing, because this is kind of getting into what we're going to be talking about later, but, a women's tag division I don't think it's a stupid idea.
No.
The Phoenix Pentagon match was incredible, but because of the bump, I don't think it's actually the best match of the night. Like, I mean, okay, maybe it is the best match, but it wasn't my favorite match because of the bump. Because to me, I was like worried about the fact that Phoenix was injured, which he is, and now he's missing next week's match.
Yeah,
it sucks because
I think we could say it was the most exciting.
Yeah.
But maybe not the best because...
Well, it's the outcome, right? Now we lose out on the chance of seeing him and Kenny, the cleaner, one-on-one, which would have been great. Pentagon's still going to be good, but I think Phoenix would have had a better match with Kenny. That said, my favorite match was the opening match. Because I'm a huge, huge fan of Jungle Boy, and when it comes to the bigs in AEW, my favorite big, like I like Brian Cage, I like Lance Archer, but my favorite is actually Wardlow, and the reason is because he's the most consistent character, even if he doesn't have much character, on AEW, apart from MJF, who's a heel. So, like, they pair him with MJF, which works great, because we don't know if he's good on the mic or not, because he's never on the mic. Maybe he isn't, which is why his pairing with MJF helps, right? But the thing is, it's like, since, like, when you think of this character or the wrestler, like, you think of, like, the cage match, for example, with Cody. That's one of the best matches on AEW, pay-per-view or not pay-per-view. One of the best matches on Dynamite. He's a part of it. He has this incredible match with Jungle Boy. And you know Jungle Boy shouldn't win, but a part of you is saying maybe he can win because the match was so good. Like, so good.
Yeah, it played off both of their wrestling styles so well. I mean, that's one thing that people have mentioned about all of these tournament matches on last night's, or this week's Dynamite, was that, you could kind of predict what the outcome was going to be at the end of all of them, but it almost didn't even matter because you got such amazing variety, all at such a high level of execution. And I really love the, it is sort of classic dynamic, David Goliath, but it was more about, okay, Jungle Boy's like the really, really fast guy, and he's just climbing all over him all over Wardlow like a spider monkey, and Wardlow's just like this big beast just slamming him into the mat over and over and over again. And so simple, but it was so well done. I know, you're a Jungle Boy super fan. I really like him. I obviously the potential is there, but it's becoming less of an issue. But my early sort of reservations of getting all the way behind Jungle Boy was really that he's just really green. A lot of times in matches, you can see, if you look at his face, he's not in the match. He's thinking about what his next move is. And to me, that kind of brought me out of the matches. But the one against Wardlow, like, everyone was in it. They were both playing to their strengths, and they did it so well. And I agree, that was a great match.
Now, on a completely separate note, let's move away from the tournament. Let's talk about the most unexpected thing that's ever happened on Dynamite. I have trouble even finding, like, I can't think of a segment to compare it to that I've ever seen in wrestling. Le Diner Debonair. I know it was amazing, but what was that? Did anybody see that coming?
No, no one. Nobody can say that they predicted they would break out into a musical number. We knew we were going to get a steak dinner at a restaurant, which is really backstage. But nobody knew they were going to do a musical number.
When that curtain pulled back, jaw just dropped. I'm like, are they holy shit.
Yeah, that's fair.
But even if you dislike the spot, right? Because it's one of those things that 50% of fans hate, 50% of fans love. It doesn't matter. That means it's a good spot. That means it's a good promo. That means it's a good musical number. Because the thing is, it's not like some people just didn't care. It's like fan rage. It's like, I hate this, or I love it. And I thought it was amazing. Because the thing is, it's not like, hopefully, they're not going to be doing a musical number week after week. This might be the one and only musical number we ever get in professional wrestling on TV that we know of. We'll see. Maybe someone will try to copy Jericho. But, like, that's the thing. It's sports entertainment, and they are doing something that has never been done, as far as I know, on TV or period when it comes to professional wrestling. Like, a musical number. And the thing is, the music I mean, it was actually good for what it is. The singing was actually good for what they were trying to do, and so was the dancing. Like, they weren't trying to do something like too over the top, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, obviously, I did not see this coming. I did not see anything that was about to happen there coming. But I mean, with Chris Jericho involved, I also wasn't shocked. Like, I'm like, yeah, if anybody's going to do this, it's going to be Chris Jericho. If anybody's going to take time out of a wrestling show with MJF to sit down and then have this weird steak dinner moment, which was fantastic. Even that, just the steak dinner part was amazing. The part where they competed on who was going to have their meat the rarest.
Yeah.
Who does that to prove they're respectively more of a man? Oh my God, that was great already.
That was actually great, because the thing is, the fact that MJF wanted his steak well done.
Yeah, it's a total heel jerk thing to do.
Yeah, not medium rare, well done, like extremely well done. Like who no, like
Yeah.
Nobody orders that.
Well, unless you're like trying to like be a dick. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
It was all brilliant. But do you know who hated it? Take a guess who hated it. Just off the top of your head.
Oh, you mean like reviewers?
Yeah.
Let me guess, Jim Cornette? Jim Cornette?
Yes, it does rhyme with Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette shockingly hated it.
Oh, come on. He hated the
coming?
spot? No way. He loves MJF.
He loves MJF. He loves Chris. He loves AEW. He loves... This is the thing about Jim Cornette. He loves all wrestling that he's not personally involved in. Because, you know, he gets the business still.
The thing about Jim Cornette, we could do a whole spot on Jim Cornette. The thing about him, he just comes across as someone who's very bitter and angry because he's not working in the business, working where he wants to be working, but has too much pride to admit it. Like, the bottom line is Jim Cornette has been involved in some of the stupidest storylines and gimmicks ever in professional wrestling when he worked at the WWE. Regardless if he wants to blame Russo or Vince McMahon, whoever, he was part of those decisions. So I'm not entirely sure what he said. I don't really care. This is Chris Jericho, 30 years of madness and craziness and awesomeness. Jericho rules. And pairing Chris Jericho with MJF is good and bad. It's bad because you're putting the two best performers on the mic working side by side as a team, which could sort of maybe take away an additional talk spot.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but now they have Eddie Kingston, so it kind of...
Yes, I know. That's the thing. The advantage is they have Eddie now, yes. But, I mean, it could have been like Jericho, hour one, midway through the show, MJF, and towards the end, Kingston. So you have three amazing promos by three different guys. But look, even if they're a team, like we're still not sure if he's part of the inner circle, but even if he is, they can still do separate talk spots and separate promos. They don't always have to be side by side. The thing that worries me is my favorite, Sammy G. He's going to be pushed to the side because MJF is just going to take the spotlight.
Well, then he'll enjoy his time at the side with Santana and Ortiz, who are one of the best tag teams in the business and rarely ever wrestle. They were half of the 5-star match with Best Friends and have all but disappeared at this point. So the inner circle is kind of already going that way anyway. Like Jake Hager barely sees TV time. Like, these guys are like, the idea of the inner circle is fading away already to me. It's shifting away. These guys that were with Jericho are kind of fading into the background. Chris Jericho and MJF storyline is up front. I honestly don't know how much life the inner circle has left in it, or at least this iteration has left in it. But,
yeah, I think it's towards the end of its life cycle, and that's totally what this MJF storyline is about. But I mean, again, getting back to the dinner debonair, and I personally, what I think worked so well about it was the context. Like, it had to be Chris Jericho, it had to be MJF. It couldn't be any other two wrestlers.
No, it couldn't
from any other company.
Nope.
Like, I can't.
No one else.
Who else can sing and dance and wrestle and do sketches about raw meat? Like,
even more
no
importantly,
one.
Who would have been willing to?
Exactly. This is the other thing, is the ballsiness of it.
Absolutely.
Like Ricky was saying, like, love it, hate it. We're all talking about it.
Damn straight.
To be fair, like, WWE has had some great performers like Honky Tonk Man, Elias, like he gets on the mic, but I think he lip syncs. But still, The Rock has done his thing in the past, but I've never seen an actual musical number. I've seen like The Rock pick up a guitar and sing. I've seen Elias do it. I've seen wrestlers do it, but never a musical number. But I think it's like hilarious how they have the two girls at one point and they just drop the two girls at the exact same time to the floor. Like, but I got some bad news for you because the Inner Circle isn't going anywhere. Jericho said multiple times in interviews he does not want it to end. Like, he doesn't want one of those factions that ends in like a year or two. He wants it to keep going, and he wants to find ways that they evolve as a unit. But the original five, he said, the original five will always be side by side as long as he can fight for it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Jericho's good at what he does, and just because he says it in an interview doesn't mean that it isn't a swerve, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, who knows what's actually going to happen? And plans change. They change quickly. Just look at Allie. Her booking changes almost from week to week. I wouldn't be shocked.
And also, sorry, but just with Chris Jericho specifically, he has such a canny mind for, when to change things. Like, yes, he'll say one thing, but like, he's not a dummy just because he said something. He's always got to do it. Like,
yep.
If the time's right, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. No, it'll be interesting.
Jericho says that most of his ideas come on the fly. He doesn't try to overthink things like way in advance, and he tries not to script the dialogue. So they can script a storyline, like the actual quote-unquote plot. When it comes to the dialogue, he prefers that the wrestlers and himself just sort of say what they would normally say in real life, so then the character feels more authentic and real, which makes sense. And that's what I like about AEW. Like, yep. I don't think there's anything wrong with scripting in advance, like what kind of storyline you want and who you want to win in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. But let the wrestlers be the wrestlers. Like, the wrestlers, like, that's the thing. Like, if your dude is good enough on the mic, like Eddie Kingston, right? You don't want to script Eddie. You don't want to script Jericho. You don't want to force a guy like MJF to speak a certain way and say certain words and actually follow a script word by word. And there's some guys who maybe need it. They're not good enough on the mic, but...
Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
You should get that
I love you, big dude, but it's a little too esoteric. Like,
it's a little much.
Yes, you have an MA in literature, but that doesn't mean you can talk on mic. I'm sorry. But please read me French poetry any day.
But here's the thing. My favorite, well, not my favorite, one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers is Ricky Starks. And it's funny because when Ricky Starks comes to the announcer table, and on Dark specifically, and he's announcing the match with Taz and Excalibur, I don't think he's great at what he's doing. So it's weird because he gets a lot of time on the microphone, but he's not really good at it. But the thing about him, but wait, here's the thing. Quickly, what I find strange about him is I don't think he's necessarily good at speaking, but he's so good at his physical mannerisms, like his facial expressions. Like, when he's angry, he looks like a villain. Like, he looks like he should be playing a big villain in a big Marvel movie. So his physical acting is better than him speaking on the mic.
Well, I think also what he's been doing with the commentary, like, I don't see his commentary being so much about commentating the match, but it's really, to me, more about getting his character over and how kind of blasé and laissez-faire and whatnot. And for me, that side of it has been really good.
Agreed. I think if anything, I think the time at commentary, working with Taz and Excalibur, might be to address that issue. It might be giving him more time on the mic. Part of the problem with being in a group with Taz is, Taz is great on the mic. So he speaks for Brian Cage and Ricky Starks a lot, so he's not getting the time on the mic that he needs to polish that. He's not the best at it. He needs time to work on it. And maybe the time on the commentary desk is what he needs to make that work.
Yeah, maybe, but... It's interesting because I said this last week, but when I heard Brian Cage on the official AEW podcast, I was blown away by how good he is on the mic. Like, just listening to him talk, like, he's really smart, he's educated, like, I don't know why he doesn't say much more on the microphone. It's really, really odd.
I think it has more to do with, on a podcast, he's speaking as himself. I think as far as like character work and being in the moment and being able to improv, which is a lot of what cutting a promo in wrestling is really about. You can be the smartest, most eloquent guy, but if you freeze up on the spot, you freeze up on the spot. I kind of feel like maybe that's kind of what's going on with Brian Cage. I know he got to talk for like half a minute this week, and I liked it, but it doesn't have the same gravitas as like a Taz promo.
By the way, the most shocking revelation this week was when Tully pulled off the mask. I had no idea it was him under the mask.
Seriously?
Really? I just assumed it. I immediately assumed it was him. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you had me. You had me for a minute there. I was like, oh my God, dude.
What a work. We got worked, Ian. Worked hard.
If it had been Sean Spears, I would have been much happier.
They're not connected.
No. But Sean Spears is going to have his beef with Scorpio, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah. And I like that they've been putting some time into that. But I think that, it's FTR and Sean Spears, never the twain shall meet. I think we just need to accept it, learn it, live it, love it, move on.
Yeah.
We got 3 minutes left, so I'm going to rant about two things before we go to the main event. Number one, Marco Stunt. I know you guys like Marco Stunt. He's probably a cool kid in real life. I just don't like Marco Stunt next to Jungle Boy. I think he hurts Jungle Boy. I think he gets too much screen time compared to a lot of wrestlers who don't get enough screen time. And I know he wasn't necessarily in this episode. He was like on the sidelines during the Jungle Boy match, but man, I wish to God they would just separate Jungle Boy from Marco Stunt and do something else with Marco Stunt. And number two thing I'm going to rant about, and you guys can chime in very, very soon. Darby Allin. I know everybody loves Darby Allin. I'm not into the whole Darby Allin promos. Like, I don't need to see an episode of Jackass on AEW. It makes no sense. Like, his promos make no sense. Like, they don't do anything in terms of like storylines. It's just about this guy that's doing these crazy stunts on the side. Why don't you just have your own YouTube channel?
I mean, I'm with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm with you. I really like Darby Allin. I like him in the ring. I like his gimmick. Some of the promos, I gotta agree. I kind of watch the videos. I'm like, what does this have to do with what's going to happen in the ring? But okay, sure. I think they could ease back on those. But other than that, I'm all about Darby Allin. Okay, quickly, I like Marco Stunt as an individual. A lot of people harp on him because of his size. I don't care about that. If he brought something interesting to the ring, he doesn't. There isn't a wrestler on the roster that can't do what he does better than him. He's not a great wrestler. And number two, he doesn't fit the Jurassic Express gimmick at all. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus make sense together. How does Marco Stunt fit into that gimmick at all? He's just a dude who sometimes has a backwards hat on. So I don't really understand how he fits into any of this. And I don't understand when they actually put him in a match. I'm like, what is he bringing to this match that Shawn Dean or Lee Johnson couldn't have done better?
From what I understand, the original plans when AEW hired Marco was to pair him with Jungle Boy, but Jungle Boy had already started pairing with Luchasaurus in the California scene, and they're like, oh, look at that crowd reaction. We got to keep those two together. We'll just shoehorn Marco in there because we already told him he's going to be working with Jungle Boy, and that's just kind of what they've kept doing. I agree it doesn't make a lot of sense for the gimmick. I kind of like the whole, like, Luchasaurus is like the papa, and then there's the brother and the kid brother who's always getting into trouble. I think the bigger issue right now for us with Marco is that he really hasn't done anything at all for several months because he's been injured. As far as what he can do or should do, I can't really say. I agree that I would much rather see, Shawn Dean or Lee Johnson finally get a win, because those guys have been working their butts off.
Oh my God.
On Dark.
Shawn Dean has 19 losses.
I don't understand that. And the commentators are like selling the heck out of him, putting him over so hard. I need that win, and every time I think it's going to happen, it hasn't happened yet, and I need my black hats in America on the wrestling, so please just give him a win and give him a permanent contract. please.
19 losses on Dark. He's wrestled 19
It makes
singles,
no sense.
19 singles and tag team matches on Dark, lost every single one of them. He's had, I think, one match on Dynamite, lost that too. It makes there's no logic to it.
Has he had a match with Marco Stunt? Because I'm sure he could pull off a win.
AEW would probably give Marco Stunt the win.
I know, but that's the thing. Like, why not just put Marco Stunt on Dark and like not on Dynamite? Like, I know he hasn't technically been on Dynamite for a while, but it's because, like Mariko said, he's been injured. But prior to his injury, he was on Dynamite like every week. And like, I'm just like, the problem with Marco Stunt isn't necessarily Marco Stunt. It's the fact that he's surrounded by great talent who are just far better than him, and there is not enough screen time for all of these dudes. Now, yes, we're going to be getting an extra hour of AEW sometime before the end of the year, according to Cody in a recent interview. It's not going to be an extra hour of Dynamite. It's going to be an hour of TV, most likely, I'm guessing, on Saturday. I could be wrong, but I guarantee you it won't be on Monday. And I don't think it'll be on Friday. So if it's not Monday, it's not Friday, and it's not Wednesday, that leaves us with Tuesday and Saturday, but Tuesday we have Dark. So chances are it's going to be Saturday. You know what I mean? So maybe with the extra hour, they can have more time for all of these dudes who don't get enough screen time, enough wins. That said, I feel like Dark is the program for a guy like Marco Stunt. Anyhow.
All right. I think it's time we took our break. When we come back, we'll be talking about our main event, the women's division in AEW.
Let's address the true offense from last week. Jim Ross. Good old JR. Don't you ever interrupt me when I'm speaking again, understand? I know you know I'm a dentist because that's all you care to talk about when I'm in the ring. Yeah, you sit there all smug and pretentious in judgment of my division, of my generation, and you sit there each week and collect a very large paycheck while we do all the work. Be the legend I grew up on, Jim. Not a sloppy barbecue sauce sales rep who can't even get our roster's name straight.
Welcome back to Talk AEW with freelance writer Mariko McDonald and the editor of Goomba Stomp and Tilt Magazine, Ricky D.
Hola, we got to get those nicknames next week.
We absolutely do. So now it's time for the main...
tough.
Oh, yeah, you should be super tough. Super tough nickname for Mariko.
5'2" of me.
But now I think it's time we talk the main event. We're going to talk the women's division in AEW. There is a lot to unpack with this, and I know Mariko has been waiting for this. She's been waiting all week to do this, so I'm just going to say, Mariko, rant. Go to work. To be
honest, I got a lot of this out of my system last week, talking about just the problem with presentation. I get that a lot of the wrestlers are, greener than some of the other larger promotions that have been really working in-house with their women, developing in-house talent, getting them out on the road, getting them on TV, and it's not happening at AEW. And unfortunately, those green wrestlers stay green because they're not working as much. They're not getting that TV time. And that, there's so many elements of the problem with the women's division. They're not working enough. They're not in storylines that give us a reason to tune into these matches that they're in when they are in matches on TV. There's the weird initiative that for the AEW heels that I guess it was meant to promote the women's division, but it's a paid membership organization, which is fine. You can have a paid membership organization, maybe not set it at $50 a year, because I ain't got that. like it's like what the women's division really needs is more exposure, not putting it into these weird paid silos where you're further nichifying something that, unfortunately, the other thing about it is that there is a blueprint for how to take a women's division from something that is sexist, misogynist, not entertaining, not engaging, to some of the best matches on all of WWE across all of their shows. So there is a way to build up a really dominant women's division, and AEW keeps treating it like an afterthought. It's like, oh, right, we need a women's match. I guess we'll just throw together a title match with Big Swole, who, even though, we've been pushing her, we're not actually going to, develop a storyline or anything. We'll just throw this match on, and here you go. Nothing changed. Who cares?
So, apologies if we sound negative in advance, but there's a lot of issues here. So, this week on Dynamite, we had Brit Baker, DMD, show up after an injury. She's been on Dynamite for week after week because she's great on the microphone, but this is the first time she's been in the ring after weeks and weeks after because of the injury, right? So she shows up, she has a match. Okay, fine. I love the fact that she shows up in pink. Her outfit was amazing, but it also the fact that she's supporting the breast cancer. I don't know if it was a specific organization or just
Is cancer awareness, the whole pink thing, Google it, there's issues. But anyways.
Okay. So anyhow, she shows up, so they don't do anything during that match, during her promos or anything to set up a storyline. So, for example, she comes out, she has her match, so why can't Big Swole come out and try to interfere or do something? Because we love the chemistry between her and Big Swole. So it's just they could have added an extra minute of screen time with two ladies, right, to develop a storyline that they can use moving forward. So at this point, I'm assuming that Britt Baker is going to be fighting for the championship at the next PPV, but there's no storyline leading up to it, right? Has she even been face to face with the women's champion at this point in time?
Britt?
No, they've had a minute. They've wrestled.
Yeah, that was when she had the fake nose break.
Right, but that was before injury. I'm saying since she's been back, she's had the thing with Big Swole, but no one else, right? Yeah.
No, because you're right. They don't put Sheeta in storylines for whatever reason.
Well, they don't. I'm guessing they don't put Sheeta in storylines because her English is not great. But I mean, so what?
Then give her
a manager. I know, who has a manager? Who got a manager recently that's disappeared?
Nyla,
exactly.
Who is off in Darkland, completely abandoned.
She gets
you have this monster heel. You're doing nothing with her. You pair her with an obnoxious talker to get her even more over as a heel, and then you leave her on Dark with one match a month.
What's the point in pairing her up with Vicky Guerrero and then she disappears?
I know.
This is what I'm confused about.
Baffling.
So here's the thing. So my question for you is, I know we have Dark, we have Dynamite. Do they count matches that are not televised or on YouTube? Because, for example, I'm looking at the rankings, and Penelope Ford, 2020, is 11-6, which means that she's been in 17 matches?
Yeah.
That can't be right.
Well, she did wrestle a lot. There was a period there where she was constantly on TV, and then all of a sudden, as soon as Miro came along, they started this absurd angle with him and Kip Sabian, and she just kind of faded into the background, basically.
Awesome Khan has only wrestled one time in 2020. She's 1-0.
She wrestled it. Where did she wrestle in 2020?
I don't know.
I don't remember Awesome Khan wrestling in 2020.
No, she's not wrestling at all anymore.
Well, the official AEW website has her listed as 1-0, which is why I mentioned it.
Weird.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's from last year, but that's weird.
It must be, yeah.
It says 2020 overall. Because
weird.
When you go to the actual official website, they have the 2020
Wait, are we talking Awesome Kong or Asha Kong?
Awesome Kong.
Okay, yeah. That's
so weird. I do not remember her wrestling.
Getting her back mended. Like, she can't wrestle.
I don't know. Maybe it was really early on in the year. I have no idea. But this is why I bring it up.
She hasn't even looked at a ring.
So do you think that this is a mistake on the AEW website? 1-0 singles match.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
Anyway, no, to me, the women's division in AEW has been screwed since moment one. Riho was a bad choice for a first champion. I have no problem with her wrestling per se, but she was just gone.
The thing is, if you go back to that first match where she won the championship, and like, I'll agree, I was kind of on the fence. Like, I like wrestling, but like, she's 90 pounds sopping wet. Like, okay, sure, whatever. But the crowd, though, she was so over with the crowd, and I think that's why they need. That's why she made sense as a first champion.
I do not dispute that whatsoever. I like Riho, but she wasn't around really. Like, they didn't use her at all. She was gone in Japan quite a bit. And that's fair. I'm not arguing that at all. And that's fair for her. This is not about her. It's about AEW making that choice. And they had an absentee champion right off the bat, and that didn't make any sense to me. Then,
that was a bad move.
It didn't work out that great. And also, the belt is ugly as hell. I do not like that belt. And then they hand the belt to Nyla Rose, which made sense to me. I like Nyla Rose. I agree with you completely. She's a monster heel. I love her. But then the pandemic hits basically almost immediately after she gets the belt, which bad bounce for her. But during that whole entire time that she couldn't wrestle because of pandemic-related travel issues, how many promos did they show about her? How much did they talk about her? They didn't. Like, she was a ghost for them. And then she comes back and virtually immediately drops the belt to Hikaru. And again, I love Hikaru. The problem with their women's division is not lack of talent. It's not great wrestlers, because they've had 3 talented women's champions. Mm-hmm. But then, again, you're absolutely right about Hikaru. Where is she? Why is she not on TV? Where are her storylines? What are you doing with this person? She is a talented wrestler, regardless of whether she has the belt or not. She should be featured. Well, if again, as Ricky said, if they're building to a match with her against Brit Baker, another fantastic wrestler, where's the storyline build for this? The lack of effort is what annoys me. It feels there.
Like an afterthought.
It does.
If it's so, again, like I was saying last week, if you make it so obvious that you don't care, how can we?
Yes, absolutely. And then you come back to this tag team tournament that if you don't want to put it on Dynamite, fine. Don't put this women's tag team tournament on Dynamite.
Make it part of Dark, but no,
exactly.
They made it its own separate thing.
How is it not on Dark? That makes no sense. It was an absurd idea.
And there was clearly a lot of work that went into it. They got Medusa
absolutely.
to host.
Yep.
Shaul Guerrera was emceeing. That's where they introduced Veda on commentary. Yep. Obviously a lot of thought went into putting that tournament together and getting all the talent involved. And they don't even put it on either of their main shows.
No, it makes no sense.
So I have a few things to say here. So first of all, I actually disagree. I think Rio was a great choice for the first champion. I think that is actually the best match of the first episode of Dynamite. I went back and watched all of the first episode last week. The problem is they knew that they couldn't really keep her around because she's wrestling in Japan, so they should have had her lose the belt right away. Having her as the first champion, that match was amazing, and against Nyla Rose, no problem. It's the fact that she held on to it for too long when they knew in advance that she could not actually be there in person to do spots, promos, and actually wrestle. That's the problem. Number 2, the tag team tournament, I agree. They should have taken a risk and put it on Dynamite, even if it dropped ratings. But they did it. And the reason why I say this is because everyone's been saying for a year now that there's been a problem with the women's division. So after a year of people, including you, AEW, saying that there's a problem with the women's division, you just got to go all in or not show up at all. I think the marketing team was testing out the interest by putting the tournament online on YouTube.
Oh, that's clear to me. I mean, Tony's all about the metrics, and even I saw a recent thing with Brit Baker talking about, the demographics for their spots, and that's why there isn't more than one spot a night on Dynamite. And the chicken egg thing,
It's also when they put the spot. Like, they put the spot when most people tune out and switch to NXT. Like, I can't switch to NXT because NXT doesn't stream live here in Canada. And even if I could, I wouldn't, because I want to just, like, for me, it's like watching a movie. I want to watch the movie. I don't want to, like, be flipping through channels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I did want to watch NXT, I would watch NXT after. Dynamite is my go-to show. But all that said, like, the problem is, and maybe they're going to fix this, like maybe, and I seriously doubt that this is actually going to happen because I don't think they have the balls to even try it, but maybe the extra hour of wrestling we're going to get in the near future is going to revolve mostly around the women's division, although I doubt it. But I only mention this because they are charging $50 to be part of the, what is it called, Heels? Right, Heels. So maybe if there's enough interest with the members of Heels, like if they have enough members, they might think it'll be worth having an extra hour. But here's the thing, that extra hour could be like part of Dark, and then they can move an hour of Dark, like what they program in Dark, onto, say, a Saturday night show that gets televised. In other words, put more women's wrestling in Dark, and then everyone else who you want to have, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Schedule for a match, you can move those guys to Saturday. Maybe we will have more room for women's matches, but I just think at this point in time, they're just too scared because they're competing with a huge company, which is WWE. They're competing with NXT, and I think they are just too afraid to have too many women's matches live on television because they think people are going to tune out.
Well, at this point, let's say for argument's sake that the women's tag team tournament was a metric tester. Let's say that's the same is true with Heels. I would also want to go to AEW Eels, but that's a very different thing. Let's say they are testing the waters. They don't need to test the waters. They know it can be good, and if they're scared, then they shouldn't be running a wrestling company. If they're scared of competition, they're in the wrong damn business. I mean, Impact isn't exactly a massive show. They're not scared to have a great women's division. They've done great work in the past 2-3 years with their women's division. They've had excellent talent on it, and they've done great storylines with them.
Yeah.
And they're not – if AEW is scared – on any level of putting out good women's matches because they think WWE has the market cornered, shut down and become a bakery. Like, if you're scared to put on wrestling matches, why are you a wrestling company? Like, that doesn't make any sense. That cannot. I actually hope that's not the case because if that's their mentality, they're done. They will go out of business.
So I have a question. How long was Dark this week?
It was
2 hours.
2 hours and 7 minutes. Normally in the past, Dark is roughly 45 minutes. So Dark has been getting
Although they've been running a lot of hour half ones recently. Like, they've been getting progressively longer. Yeah.
So my point is, the women's tag team tournament took place roughly around the time when Dark was still an hour show. So why not just add an extra hour to Dark, use it for the tag team tournament, and be done with it? Why have
would have made perfect sense.
Seriously.
Perfect sense.
Seriously.
There's no logic in separating it out into yet. Even if,
like, how can it be a demographics test if you're siloing it off somewhere else?
It's not a fair test whatsoever.
No.
And also, it even just the basic logic is flawed because already, if you're someone who watches WWE, you have 47 hours of wrestling to watch every week because of that, and most of that's Raw. And then you've got AEW, which now you've got 2 hours of Dynamite and anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours of Dark. And on top of that, if you're someone who still follows Ring of Honor, if you also watch Impact, if you watch anything else that's making like content, then you've got extra hours there on top of that. So am I really going to take another, who knows how long, let's say half hour out of my week to watch more wrestling? I did because I'm me. But how many people are going to do that? And they're shooting themselves in the foot with the essential premise.
Yeah, either make it part of your company or don't. Don't try to be like, oh yeah, and we also have women over here.
Well, also, and for the tag team thing in particular, what tag teams am I invested in? Like, going into this, like it was
like, all random draws. So
and
where's the emotional investment?
Exactly. And several of the wrestlers were there basically for the tournament, like the artist formerly known as Cameron. She hadn't wrestled in I don't even know how long. She showed up, wrestled one match, never hear from her again. They brought in the backstage announcer to backstage interviewer, Dasha, she wrestled. That's great. She's trained for it. I get that. But she wrestled, and then that was the end of it. I'm like, okay. And then on top of that, this is the beautiful part of it. They hit on absolute gold with Ivelisse and Diamante.
Mhm.
Love them. Great tag team. But what do you do with that now? There's no division. There's no championship. There's no other teams to compete against.
They're not even officially part of the roster. Like,
No, they're not.
They're not officially part of the roster. Neither is
I think they are now. I know that Ivelisse mentioned recently that she has officially been signed.
Well, she's not on the website yet. So if she has been signed, it hasn't been made public, at least not by AEW. And what's her face from Mexico?
Oh, Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, exactly. She's not officially part of the roster. So what we have here is we have 20 women who are officially part of the roster. Here's the thing, right? So if you only have time to showcase one match between two shows, which is Dark and AEW, and you have 20 women wrestlers. So if you're doing a one-on-one match, you basically 2 out of 20 will have airtime, and then you have 18 who don't. So then you have someone like Anna Jay, who's part of the Dark Order, so she's got something to do, right? You have Bunny, who's part of Butcher and her Blade.
Blade.
So she's got something to do. Okay, fine. You have Brit Baker, who's injured, but she's got her promos, and she's got her thing with Tony Schiavone, and she's got Reba or Rebel or what. I don't know, like they keep changing her name. But the point is, like, I don't know, like they don't have a tag team belt, but they have tag team medals, which doesn't really work. Like no one cares about medals. No, like we're trained as an audience, like as wrestling fans, to care about a belt, not about medals. So you gotta, like, you know what, just bring in a women's tag team championship, like, because then at least
why not?
Because like if you have 4
I think
teams,
it's a great idea.
If you have, just do the math, if you have 4 teams competing for the women's tag team championship, right? So already you got 16 wrestlers that you're using in some kind of storyline, and then you still have room for the other 4 or 5 to compete for the heavyweight championship. It sort of like solves the problem, right?
Well, and they're also been branding themselves as we're the company that takes tag team wrestling seriously.
Yeah.
Let the women do it too. Just get the women, because we don't take them seriously at all. And I know we sound very, very negative, and I feel the need to reiterate that this all comes from a place of love. I love the talent at AEW. These women, you know, are working really hard and are very talented, and it's just so frustrating to not see them getting the support from their company that they should be.
Absolutely.
I think, for example, forgive me if I'm not pronouncing her name right. Abaddon. Okay, so I think Abaddon is a prime example of someone that they can use more, because to me, she is the Kane / Undertaker / what's his face? Wyatt. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Of the women's division of AEW. Like, she has this crazy, scary gimmick, and she looks completely different than everyone else on the roster. And so she's perfect. Like, she's a great character that you can use. Should you ever give her the belt? No, not anytime soon, because you need to put her over. But you can use her in great storylines. Britt Baker, we've already said she's amazing on the microphone. She had great chemistry with Big Swole. You got Leva Bates, right? She has her thing with the Librarian and what's his face. Like, they're sort of like using these wrestlers here and there on Dark, but it's just not enough. Like,
no, I want to see them work. Let them wrestle. You know hashtag let them wrestle.
Oh my god! You know what I would love to see? I'd love to see Britt Baker and Abaddon wrestle. And when Britt's looking to put the lockjaw on her, she doesn't want to put her hand in her mouth.
Vomits blood.
She's
all
like,
over
nope,
her.
don't want this. Oh my god, I would love to watch that. Do you know what? Going back to Rick, what you were saying about, like, they have 20 or so women's wrestlers they use. This week, officially have 20 plus all the unsigned talent, I'm sure. Brandy wrestled on Dark this week. And I have no problems with Brandy, love Brandy. But she wrestled against Kylan King, who I also love. Then they have one match on Dynamite that is Britt Baker, love Britt Baker, again wrestling Kylan King. You could, and I have no problems with Kylan. I like her. I think she's great talented. But you couldn't have found someone else to get one of those spots? Like, just give some time to one other wrestler, even if they were just doing the job for Brandy or Britt. I'm fine with that. But you couldn't have given that spot to one. You had to use the same competitor 2 nights in a row like that. Like, it seemed like even that's just kind of shoddy planning to me. Like, there are so many talented women on there. Give them a chance. Give that other spot to somebody who needs to show off a bit.
Yeah, I agree. Although I am looking forward to the Tay Conti versus Abaddon match on Dark.
Oh God,
this week.
yes.
I think that's going to be really fun. And I also like that they're kind of hinting at some sort of alliance between Tay Conti and Anna Jay, where Anna Jay is trying to recruit her. And I think if they work on that a little bit more, it's like you get these little, like, tiny little snippets of, like, oh, this could be a seed of a story, and then nothing happens.
Yeah, that was a great. I love that angle. I agree with you completely. And then they just suddenly haven't talked about it for weeks.
Yeah.
They just dropped it. I'm like, okay, is this still a thing? Like, Dark Order doesn't seem like a group that when they're trying to actively recruit somebody, they just sort of go, okay, we're done. And they were actively trying to recruit Tay, and then just suddenly seem to stop caring. It's very strange.
I mean, I think part of it, too, is just how they're choosing to book the women, or maybe their filming schedule or something where there's only, like, any 3 women to choose from on any shooting day. But, like, that's a lame excuse.
But that's not true, because you see them in the audience on the sidelines.
Oh,
right?
that's true, yeah.
Great point. Great point.
So
they're there. Why
so
not?
that's the thing. Like, sometimes I think, like, we're being too critical because we don't know what's happening with COVID and travel restrictions and whatnot. But then you see them in the audience. You're like, okay, they are there. We get more screen time of Pineapple Pete, who technically isn't part of the roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But the thing about AEW, and the last thing I'm going to say before we wrap up, is they tend to sort of do things on the fly. So Eddie Kingston shoots a promo on some indie wrestling promotion, calls out a bunch of people, including Cody. I think it was Cody, right? And somehow Tony Khan sees it on Twitter. They decide, okay, we're gonna jump on this. We're gonna bring Eddie into AEW, not signing him, just bringing him in to do one match. He does one match. It's fantastic. The crowd loves him. He's great on the microphone. Boom. We gotta sign this guy right away. And then right away he gets a shot for the title, the heavyweight championship, with Jon Moxley. So, like, normally, like, I would be like that, you know, it doesn't really make any sense. You have, like, this ranking system. What's the point of having a ranking system if these guys come in and you right away get them a shot at the championship belt, like Lance Archer, like Brian Cage? But in this case, it actually makes sense. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But I don't see them taking the same chances with the women's division, right? I see them doing it with the men's, but not with the women's. And like Thunder Rosa is a perfect example. Like, I don't know, man. Bring her out on Dynamite and have her, I don't know, do something with Brit Baker in the ring. That's unexpected. Just do something.
Well, and then they signed Serena Deeb, who is used to be a trainer at WWE. Fantastic technical wrestler. She's the one who did the tune-up match with Thunder Rosa. But we didn't even know who she was until she was in the ring getting beaten by Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, they didn't put a lot of effort into bringing her in, which was too bad.
You know, I like the idea of having a player coach in the women's division, but again, it's just they're not building the characters, they're not building the storylines, they're not giving us the reason to get excited for the women's matches, and then they're like blaming us for not watching. It's like, give us a reason to watch.
Does anybody know what the ratings were like for the tournament?
Not great, I would imagine.
So I don't know, guys. I don't know what you would consider good in terms of metrics, but some of the matches had about 700,000 or 700,000 plus views.
Okay.
So considering that All Elite Wrestling, the YouTube channel, has 1.74 million subscribers, I mean, like, what? I'm bad at math here, but like 80% of your audience is watching the tag team tournament? That's a lot of people.
Well, 80% watched one of them. Another one scored 273,000 views. That's significantly lower. So, I mean, it was good that the night one quarterfinals drew like that, but they all sure didn't. Like, as time went on, the semifinals drew significantly less.
Right. Okay.
So I mean,
saying there was a drop week after week. Yeah. Okay.
It's a severe drop because, again, exactly what Mariko was saying before. What reason did they give us to care? Like, they have Big Swole and Little Swole, who awesome that they're tagging together in AEW, but then Little Swole just disappeared. Tay Conti and Anna Jay in the semifinals against Ivelisse and Diamante. Again,
wasn't something that was being promoted on Dark or Dynamite while it was happening. You get these fleeting comments on commentary about, oh yeah, there's a tournament, YouTube. That was it.
You know, that is one thing WWE does way better than AEW, when they show footage of the other shows to connect storylines in case you haven't seen the other shows.
Yeah.
Because, look, even if you're the biggest AEW fan, AEW should not assume that we are going to watch every single minute of everything they do, because we have lives. Like, anything can happen. I can get sick. I can have a new job. Like, you know what I mean? So maybe I'm going to miss 5 minutes or an entire episode of Dark every so often.
Well, also, all their content is spread over so many different channels, where you've got BTE, you've got Sammy Vlogs, where storylines are happening now as well. You've got Dark, you've got Dynamite, you've got the podcasts. It's just all over the place.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it's time for us to wrap up the show.
Aww.
I know.
Yeah, we still are not entirely sure what we're going to talk about next week. We have a few ideas. It really depends on what happens on Dark and Dynamite, but we will for sure be doing a little quick spot on what our nicknames should be, and I think we might not, but might talk about Dark and why it's so good.
In that case, we'll see you next week when we talk about AEW Dark, the high quality of it, on Talk AEW, featuring Mariko McDonald, freelance writer, and the editor of GoombaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net, Ricky D.
And just a reminder, you can find the episodes, the show, on GoombaStomp.com, and there are links to the YouTube channel, the Stitcher channel, the Spotify. It's all over the place, and that's about it. Yeah. Thank you, Ian. You should You should mention yourself before we sign out.
Oh yeah, I'm Ian.
Which by the way, Mr. Humble Ian, check out his coverage over at GoombaStomp.com, his weekly coverage of AEW, Dynamite, and Dark. And with each post, you also get the embed of the podcast.
Well, that just sounds like a great deal, Ricky.
All right, I guess we should sign out.
Have a good week, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, I don't watch Sammy's vlogs, and I do not watch BT, although I hear it's great.
John Silver. It's worth watching for John Silver.
Yeah.
Everything's worth watching for John.
He was on Shot of Brandy.
Did you see that?
Oh.
Did you watch it?
Star!
Oh, everything about that on him on A Shot of Brandy was amazing.
Oh, yeah, and so that's tying into storylines now.
He's going to be their R-Truth, the guy that just comes in, they hand a 24/7 championship to, which is an absurd idea, and makes it gold. Because he's just that good at getting things over, and I think John Silver's going to be that guy too.
This might be, you guys might make fun of me for saying this, but I always think of him as Daniel Bryan. I don't know, there's something about him.
Has the beard?
It's not the beard. It has nothing to do with the look.
Short?
It's not about his look. It's about the way he just gets the reaction from an audience. His charisma, his charm, his personality. It's yes, the look maybe, but I think it's more about his personality.
I can see what you're talking about, actually. I was watching SmackDown last night, and they had the opening match was an 8-man tag match, and Street Profits, Kevin Owens, and Daniel Bryan were a team. And after the match, they won. And after the match, they were backstage and they were celebrating. And Daniel Bryan played this weird, awkward dude angle where he was like, "We won, Street Profits. Let's fist." and he stuck out his fist for a fist bump. And the Profits and Kevin Owens just were like, okay. And they fist bumped him and then went on their merry way. But it was this weird moment that everything you're saying about him, I could see John Silver doing that exact same thing and making the moment funny. Even describe it. You can picture Daniel Bryan doing this. John Silver's that way. So I see what you're saying, Rick.
He's like when you're younger and you have a lot of your friends their dads are trying to be Joe Cool and macho, the alpha males, and you go to one of your friends' house and his dad's just this really lovable geek who's just he's not afraid to embarrass himself to make you laugh type of thing, and he's just fun and loving. And I don't know, there's something about his persona. I think this guy, I'm pretty sure in real life he must be amazing to hang out with. Like even backstage, he must be the highlight of everyone's night.
Yes.
You know? So yeah.
Okay,
No, I'm with
so
you.
quick story gives you a little bit of insight into my marriage with my husband. We have this kind of game that we play when we're watching TV or something where he'll pick out someone on the television or in the show and be like, would you go on a date with them? Or like, would you sleep with this guy? Would you sleep with that guy? Do you think he's sexy? And it's just kind of this silly thing that we do. And he was razzing me the other night because I hesitated saying yes to a date with John Silver. And he was like, come on, you would have the time of your life. You would have so much fun.
No, I think that he's right. You would.
I mean, he was right. He is right.
I would hang out with that dude all day. He seems awesome.
I mean, look, if you're talking about Ricky Starks, the dude is just like, the problem with Ricky Starks is that he's considered like really good looking by most people. Not everyone's type, but then you dress him up to make him look even better. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, Taz once said, like, I don't know if I should, was it Taz or John Moxley or Eddie Kingston said, I don't know if I should fight him or go on a date with him, right? Then you got, but you have Sammy too is considered good looking by a lot of people. So those two guys have a huge following, just based on their looks. Forget about how good they are in the ring. But John Silver, like, yeah, I mean, I would go on a dinner date with him. I think it would be so fun. This doesn't necessarily mean it has to lead to us dating. Like, why not?
Dude just seems
I'll be honest, the only reason I hesitated was because he's diminutive in stature and so am I, and it's like a personal thing where I've just had too many little guys hitting on me. Anyways.
Silver honestly just seems like a great dude. Like, he just seems like the kind of guy you could just have a great time with. I want to go to Disney World with him.
Oh my goodness.
I want to spend the day at Disney World with John Silver. That's what I want.
Drinking around the world at Epcot with John Silver. Forget about it.
Come on. That's a day right there. That'd be beautiful.
You get the little mouse ears for him, and you take pictures together with the mouse. Oh my goodness!
All of this, I'd get a goofy.
All right, starts writing fan fiction.
I'm around 6'3", so I think the two of us together, him with the mouse ears, me with the goofy hat, could be amazing. I think we'd have. Oh God, John, if you ever listen to this, just let's work this out, man. I don't live near there, but I will travel down there, dude. I will go to Disney World with you. If we can ever make it work.
Matt Cardona would go with us, but I don't want to go with Matt Cardona. I want to go with John Silver.
I like Matt, but I want to go with John.
So here's the thing. Yeah. I want to pitch a segment, a promo for that maybe AEW can do in the near future, which is a buddy cop movie starring John Silver, but who is his partner?
Oh.
It's tough.
Can it be Orange Cassidy? Because John Silver is the single most enthusiastic human being I've ever seen.
That was my first thought, is like, you need a good straight man.
I feel like I would even if they don't do something ongoing, I think just once I want to see them in an AEW ring just kind of dealing with each other.
Well, they both have those devastating kicks, so it could be a fun match.
God. It would be amazing.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with liking feet,
You know, I kind of agree. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm more of a belly button man myself.
Hey! What the f*** are we talking about?
I was talking about navels.
We're talking about navels? And feet? You feet pervert? This is bullshit! Who's got papers for me? Who's got papers? What are you talking about, you little bitch? Did someone say little